Very massy product, which also gave me a vibe that it was an Indian brand.
I call it like the Bata effect.
Yeah, I mean,
And
most of the Indians think that's an Indian brand.
so the first creator is actually Whitney Simmons, and the others are none other than Yes Theory. 2.37 million as a solo creator. I think very, very
Massive.
interesting, very nice. High intent to buy product,
It's very high,
very, very high. We're
Yeah.
looking at 18% plus.
right up there. Every
Yeah.
brand manager's dream.
And look at this, US 55%, close to 55%. Overall, what are your thoughts, Shubham? When you think of a sports brand, it's easy to think of hardcore sports brand like an Adidas or a Nike, where you talk about running, where you talk about victory. But truly, there's this one brand that has really captured the hearts, the minds, and the muscles of millions of athletes across the world. But it's actually not just athletes, it's also people who are trying to get into sports, who are trying to make a better lifestyle for themselves, who are trying to go outdoors, that absolutely love Decathlon, the brand that we'll be covering for this episode of Influencer Matchmaking. But why are we speaking about Decathlon right now? Well, that's because they actually had a rebrand. And in my opinion, it's one of those rebrands which really hit the mark. They've really done well. And their tagline is, are you ready to play? Are you ready to go outside? Are you ready to be adventurous? And we at Thousand Faces Club are very adventurous and are very excited to speak about Decathlon and obviously two creators that we'll be featuring. So the first creator is actually Whitney Simmons. She's a lifestyle creator, she's a lifestyle blogger, but she has extreme focus on fitness, on health, and sometimes the outdoors too. And the others are none other than Yes Theory. Yes Theory have been around on YouTube for quite a while now. They're quite a huge creator, probably one of the biggest creators we've covered on Influencer Matchmaking. But are they really a good fit for Decathlon and their rebrand? We'll discuss all of that. But before we speak to the creators, before we speak on the creators, we dissect their inside IQs. I introduce Shubham. Shubham, how's it going?
It's going great, Shri. Let me throw a question as
Yes.
an answer to your question.
Okay.
What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Decathlon?
When I think of Decathlon, I think of cheap outerwear, and I think it's a local brand.
Yeah, I mean, I would say affordable, good quality
Yeah, yeah,
sports
affordable,
brand.
good quality. Sure, that's
But the first product that comes to my mind is a bicycle.
the bike. I used to have it.
Somehow,
I used to
yeah,
own it. Yeah,
somehow bicycles all of a sudden, like 4 or 5 years ago, this brand came and like blew away all the competition, and you had to have a bicycle of
sure,
Decathlon.
sure. The B Twin range. I remember I used to
Yeah,
have one, the white colored bicycle. In fact, through my college, and this is a little fun fact, I used to actually go during my college days. This is how I used to commute. So my commute was on the Decathlon bicycle, and I'm glad that we're sort of speaking about the brand. But Shubham, what are your, like, you mentioned the cycle, and I'm glad that you sort of associated that one product. But other than that, what are your thoughts about the brand? Like, in terms of its origin, its product, other products, perhaps just the feel of the brand.
very massy product,
Mm. Yeah.
which also gave me a vibe that it was an Indian brand,
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
right? So
Sure.
I mean that also speaks a lot about a brand going global, right?
Absolutely.
That every country
Absolutely.
thinks that it belongs to them.
It belongs to them.
So I would say the rebrand was needed because
It really
people
was.
were demanding it, because it is
Absolutely.
not a French brand anymore. It is a
Yeah.
global brand, and you need to recognize it, include it in your branding, in your messaging, positioning, everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
So
think
it's
it
the
is a
best
global
place to
brand.
be in. Yeah.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that. I call it like the Bata effect, because in
Yes.
India, and of course Bata is a European company, but Bata is obviously a shoemaker, and they're really popular in India. So they're really part of the Indian pop culture almost, because Bata is a very colloquial term.
Yeah. I mean,
And
most of the Indians think that's an Indian brand.
exactly, but
Yeah.
it's not. And similarly, what you mentioned about Decathlon as well, the way they've opened up their retail strategy, a lot has been spoken about that. Business case studies, a lot has been spoken about that, how they've done so well as a business in India and also in other states, in other countries. So they've really cracked the code, I would say. But as you mentioned, Shubham, the rebranding, I also think it was necessary. They didn't have a logo for starters, folks, which is
That was
very
annoying.
interesting that you don't
Yeah.
have a logo. They
I
have a
didn't
new
even
logo.
realize it.
Yeah, like it's just a logo type, and now they're like, oh wow, okay, we were missing a logo, like an actual logo mark that's there. They're calling it L'Orbit, or the Orbit. L'Orbit was just a
Yeah,
failed French pronunciation. But
on
Shubham,
my bench.
two interesting
Yeah.
creators also that we have today. What are your thoughts on them, Whitney and Yes Theory? Have you sort of watched their content before, consumed them, your story with them?
So yeah, I mean, Decathlon is like an amalgamation of 85 brands, right?
Sure.
So yes, theory is that kind of let's say avenue for me when I think of multiple creators
Yeah.
doing things on a global scale. So I'm pretty upbeat. I'm pretty sure that yes, theory is already a good match for
Sure.
for the brand, but we
Sure.
just need to confirm it via
Let's
Inside
confirm
IQ.
it. Let's validate it. But
Yeah.
who should we start with, Shubham? Who should we go with? Should we go with Miss Simmons, or should we
Let's
go
go
with?
with Simmons. Let's go with
Okay.
Miss Simmons.
Okay.
Let's keep the
Awesome.
mystery for later. Yeah.
Let's keep the mystery for it. I love that. I love that. Okay. We will go. And folks, as you probably know by now, if you're a regular watcher of Influencer Matchmaking, that we use Insight IQ, the link for that is actually in the description. You should check it out. Give it a spin. If you work in branding and marketing, if you want to see, what influencers are doing, how they're really matching up to your brand identity, I would strongly and highly suggest that you check out Insight IQ. It's in the description. But for now, I will be sharing my screen and we will be looking at Whitney Simmons and her journey as a creator. Let's do it. Let's get a quick cheat sheet of the performance. 2.37 million as a solo creator. I think very
Massive.
interesting, very nice. Um, Average views, right? We're always looking at the 10% of
It's
your
good. It's almost
subscribers.
30%.
So that I think is very interesting. Engagement rate is higher than the
Average.
median,
Yeah.
but it's not too great, I would say. But
Yeah.
like it's hitting par for the course. 212 posts per comment. Again, not too much, but it's okay. Like
Yeah.
it's nothing too horrible. Let's actually go to the top content, and like here again, a lot of fitness and a lot of workout videos. Clearly, I'm sure already very popular with the female population, because of course there are very few who can actually give you actionable tips at the gym when it comes to workout. And she's been doing this for a very pretty long time now. And this is some of her top content, which is about these exercises, which is about and I think this is a great place for logo placement. Like you're actually wearing, having your creator
Yeah.
at the gym battle it out, wearing Decathlon. I think that would be, in my opinion, a great fit in that sense, since already the top content is associated with gyms and fitness and whatnot. So I think that's a great play.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think about the comment, Shubham? Because what I loved about this one is two things: high intent to buy product,
It's very high.
very high. We're
Yeah.
looking at 18% plus,
Yeah.
and audience sentiment, Shubham, is at 86.33%. What are your
Amazing.
thoughts?
Yeah. It's right up there. Every
Yeah.
brand manager's dream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And folks, at Influencer Matchmaking, we usually benchmark that if you're above, you know, usually what we see is that if you have double digits as your intent to buy, that's a pretty healthy mark. And here, Whitney is at 18.29. So I think that's a pretty good number in my opinion, because that's close to 20%, right? Not
Yeah.
20%,
And
but close to 20%.
you also take a look at the number of comments. 111 comments out of 607 have
Sure.
shown intent to buy the product and
Absolutely.
service. It's
Absolutely.
amazing in terms of number.
Absolutely. So I think immediately as a brand manager, what you were mentioning, Shubham, that if I see it, I'm like, oh damn, I can literally. There's such an instant connect. And sure, if 18% have shown an intent to buy, the number of people who actually buy it, that reduces. But at least your top of the funnel, or your tofu as it's called, that's quite healthy, and that's really hitting the mark. So this really seems interesting to me.
Yeah.
86% positive. Again, what we've been consistently seeing on influencer matchmaking, Shubham, are these numbers when it comes to subscriber growth and
Yeah.
likes. Like this entire December, November, December, January, we have some anomaly that happens here. But look at this clear rise, and again, because of the time set, which is November to March, not a very huge number of increase, but it's been consistent. Right,
Yeah.
she's at 2.37 million, and the likes have been sort of falling. They had I think people in January, I would hope more people would watch fitness videos, but clearly they're
They
like,
don't
what,
like watching it.
they don't like watching it perhaps. And then but the likes have sort of gone back. So again, I wouldn't say this is too healthy. This is not the best that we've seen on influencer matchmaking or for any creators. but it's still not too bad. Like, it's not that her subscribers are falling, and it's not like her likes are completely terrible. But there is 100% scope for improvement.
Yeah.
um Now, actually, I want to ask you a question, Shubham. Is what do you think about the audience? Because I already have a feeling that we know what the audience is going to look like, but just to hazard a guess from you, what do you think the makeup of the audience is going to be for Whitney Simmons?
I'm gonna pretend to think about it because it's also open on my end.
Sure,
It's predominantly women who are
predominantly
consuming the
women.
content.
Absolutely, I think. Look at this
Yay,
number.
I was right.
You were right, Shubham, and right by what a margin. Because, folks, I think one other creator we've seen, and this is because we've done so many episodes now, we have seen that this is like, sometimes for some creators 90% is also true. So we're looking at 92.6% as female
Wow.
for Whitney Simmons, which I think is just polarizing to the next level. And polarizing, I don't mean it in a pejorative way, but just in a good way. That sure, like, a lot of female viewers is what something Whitney enjoys. And look at this, what you were mentioning about the Western, bent.
Yeah.
US 55%, close to 55% of the
Yeah.
audience is from the US.
9%.
Yeah,
UK, Australia,
9%. You know,
Philippines is a an anomaly there.
it is an
Germany,
anomaly. Germany comes back, and India is just like a
India,
little at a 1.4%.
Indonesia. Yeah.
So clearly, what you were mentioning, Shubham, right at the start, was a very Western bent of mind for the viewers, for the
Yeah.
consumers of Whitney Simmons's content. But I would say that, if, let's say, if you're launching this campaign, of course, Decathlon has this rebranding, but if they were specifically looking at female creators, they want to attack, only, females, let's say, in the US, in
In the
Canada.
US. Yeah.
I think Whitney is a great bet, because her channel is also
Absolutely.
having a nice little uptrend. But of course, we have to go to the last segment, Shubham, which is the audience demographic. And here we find, slightly, I think, people in their college years, like, and I think
Yeah.
here again, there's a good alignment, Shubham. And why do I say that? Is because Decathlon isn't the most premium product, right?
Yeah.
Like, for somebody in their 30s, they can go for a slightly, like, a Patagonia, which is, of course, the
Yeah.
first
Why not?
episode that we covered on Influencer Matchmaking. They can go for that. But if you're, let's say, in your college years, or if you
You need
just
affordable
graduated,
clothing. Yeah. Correct.
affordable clothing, right? So I
Yeah.
think here, that's also their alignment, that, hey, you know what, I'm not speaking to, of course, that 25 to 34 is still there, like, and you could still sort of have a conversation with them, but my major chunk, the majority,
63%.
is with 18 to 24. So I
Yeah.
think that
It's a
that
great.
way,
Yeah.
it's a greatness. Yeah. What are your thoughts overall on Whitney, Shubham? If I were to ask you to summarize it in a few words.
I mean, you're right when you're saying like if Decathlon is targeting Western audience, specifically women,
Women.
then they should go about it because Decathlon is a very large brand,
Sure.
right? Both in terms of the brand value as well as the number of people who consume their products.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
it's a very massive product. They have 100,000 employees,
Yeah.
1,700 stores in 70 countries, and they cover 80 sports. So,
80 sports. Yeah.
80, yeah.
Yeah.
So clearly they can run multiple campaigns, and
Absolutely.
a Western centric campaign should include a creator like Whitney Simmons.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think Whitney, for me, so far at least, Shubham, she's been doing a pretty good job, and I think there is some alignment, but we're not done yet,
Yeah.
right? Because the format of influencer matchmaking, folks, is that we have two creators battle it out against each other, and for the second creator, we have none other than Yes Theory.
Yes.
Uh, Shubham, what brand that they've built? Again, I was going to say channel, but brand really, because they've really gone beyond just the ordinary, right?
Yeah,
When
they're
it
like
comes
the
to
decathlon of creator economy.
of the creator economy, exactly. Man, that's such a good way to put it, and even the colors sort of match. So I do sort of really appreciate that parallel that you've drawn here. But look at this, right? We believe that life's greatest moments and deepest connections exist outside your comfort zone, and of course they have their clothing line, which is very popular, Secrets Comfort, and we speak about that, how that might be, like, it might be a bit of competition, but they can obviously collaborate on their clothing lines as well.
Yeah, it would need
um
some, tricks on a
yeah.
brand manager's part to
Yeah,
think how to do it.
absolutely, absolutely. That's really there. But performance wise, Shubham, look at this. I will not say
Man,
much. I will just tell you to look at the number of subscribers
look at the
vis-a-vis
engagement
the
rate.
average views per
Yeah,
video.
yeah. It's one fourth, man. It's amazing. 25%.
That is really, really amazing. And 2 million views, if you're averaging per video, I think anybody's going to be happy. And of course, the
Yeah.
problem here is that it's coming from everywhere, right? Like these
everywhere.
views aren't like, oh, it's very
Global. Yeah.
concentrated, but it's a global thing and it's coming from everywhere. And I really like the fact that we have creators who can consistently hit. And of course, some videos will not hit the 2 million. That's why it's an average. Some will go for 10 million, some might, subsume at 500K. But the fact that you have an average of 2 million views per video goes
Yeah.
to show that you're a pretty damn accomplished creator company.
Yeah. And look at the number of comments, average comments per post, more than
8K.
8,000.
Absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely. That is banging, and of course,
Raining
engagement rate
comments.
is
Yeah.
is is also pretty interesting. Top content, Shubham. I've this has been some really interesting stuff, some really wacky stuff.
Yeah.
Yes Theory does some really, really, out of the box, ultra ordinary stuff. I have to say, because here they speak about this fake Justin Bieber, which they did in 2018, a massively popular video that they had.
50,000, close to 50,000 comments.
Absolutely, close to 50,000
Amazing.
comments. And then, of course, you had Thomas, marooned on an island or visiting a country which is very, people don't visit it
Dangerous.
too much. I
Yeah.
love the thumbnail as well, very iconic sort of a thumbnail. And
Yeah.
then, you have again Seek Discomfort, with, when you're
Wim Hof.
outside,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're taking ice baths and just chilling in the snow, I guess. So clearly, different kind of content, Shubham, what we've seen with
Yeah.
Whitney Simmons, right? Like what she was good at, and what the Yes30 folks have done. I wouldn't say it's similar.
Yeah. It's more of adventure
Yeah.
content.
And Shubham, now let's look at the audience sentiment and the intent to buy, right? And I
Yeah.
think 74% positive. I think it's still a pretty healthy number, right?
Good number for a 8 million above channel.
Exactly, because there will surely be some detractors, some people who will be like, you know what, I don't enjoy y'all kind
Yeah.
of suck. Why are y'all doing this? But they're huge, so you can expect some, headwinds in that sense.
Yeah.
But the intent to buy, Shubham, is at 16.47%, which I still think is pretty
It's
healthy,
amazing. Yeah. It's
right?
amazing for, again, a channel of, that size. It's amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think there is clearly love for the brand and love for the brand that they've created, and also the products that speak about, which obviously might be their own products, which is the Seek Discomfort range. But clearly, the audience does have their affinity that 16.47% are intending to buy the product.
Yeah.
Shubham, now moving on to growth and interests, we again
They're growing fast, man.
they're
8.5 to
growing.
8.8.
Absolutely, 8.5 to 8.8. That is really, really not a joke that we've seen. Going at 300K, you're just expanding at such a rapid clip.
Yeah.
Um, and look at that. Look at the likes growth, which is always something that's so
Dips in
interesting to
December.
see, right? Which is December, the disaster of December happens again, where it's just goes down like it's just a crash, and
Yeah.
then look at the recovery. So I think it's almost very poetic, because yes theory have redefined what going out of your comfort zone is, like
Yeah.
that's one of their
Definitely.
major tenets, and they've really outperformed themselves. They really sometimes punch above their weight, which I really appreciate and enjoy.
Yeah. And look, speaking of enjoyment, look at this. People in USA 33.8%, UK 9.2, India at 6%.
India
So
6%.
again, a mix of Western countries with some big countries outside Indonesia,
Indonesia
India,
is there, yeah,
South Africa, Poland.
absolutely. And what do you think about the gender skew, Shubham? Because
Hmm.
obviously very different from Whitney Simmons, but
But
what are your
typical of
thoughts?
YouTube. This is
Yeah.
what YouTube's,
the
gender
the
distribution looks like.
populace, yeah,
Yeah.
the average populace of a youtube channel, and of YouTube in general, is this, which is about 70/30.
Yeah.
So clearly there is some amount of skew that's there, and it's obviously more tailored towards men,
Average audience. Yeah.
or towards the average audience, which
Which
is
also fits well with the, massy audience of Decathlon.
absolutely,
You're going
absolutely
after a very average distribution.
correct.
So, which yes theory also has. And look at this. By age, we're talking about 55% people are again in that affordability criteria.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think there is an alignment here as well. What we mentioned about, like, the 18 to 24, they're not as, let's say, wealthy or not as accomplished yet as the other group, and they would definitely go for a decathlon product, which is definitely massy and is affordable, and people can go for it.
Yeah.
So So yeah, I think it's an interesting call though, but I do feel that Decathlon as a brand, right now they are going quite global. Uh, yes, theory is global, but they don't really, it's distributed like the audience. So if I were to do a campaign with them, it would go all across. But would it really hit specifically that one type? I don't know. I would much rather go with Whitney Simmons if I'm specifically target a women centric campaign. For Decathlon, for the rebrand, speaking about, hey, you know what, that we're encouraging women to go outdoors, to go to the gym, play a sport. So I think that would work much better. But overall, what are your thoughts, Shubham? Who do you think takes the cake? And you can say both. You can say either. We of course don't have the system of only one winner at influencer matchmaking. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, I started this video with the guest theory, in
Yeah,
my mind as a better match.
yeah,
But now that you say it, like you're right, they seem too big to work with a brand like Decathlon. Right?
sure,
They have their own clothing, they have their own brand going on, and yeah, I mean, you're right. Like it's very hard to measure ROI of a very generic campaign.
sure,
So
exactly.
I agree with you. I think Miss Simmons is the better bet here.
Awesome, awesome. Miss Simmons, Miss Whitney Simmons, if you're watching this, then congratulations. Hopefully, Decathlon will work with you in the future. And obviously, big kudos to all the people at the Yes Theory team. They're obviously a very huge team now, and they continue to push the boundaries of storytelling and pushing the envelope of content, of YouTube content in general. And certainly, they've inspired all of us to seek discomfort. But that's about it for this episode of Influencer Matchmaking. Thank you so much for watching. Folks, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Thousand Faces Club. We come up with videos every week, very interesting videos. Last few weeks we've been doing some very interesting videos that you all have been loving. We've done on Figma, few more videos coming very soon. So make sure that you subscribe to it and you hit the bell icon so you actually know when you're hitting, when you're getting those videos. We also have a newsletter, folks, by the way, so do check it out, because if you prefer the written word, if you prefer a nice, crisp read on these brands and on a lot of brands that we've actually spoken about on Influencer Matchmaking, you can get that as well in your inbox every Tuesday. So that's also happening. And other than that, thank you so much for watching. I'm Shreevar,
I'm Shubham.
and we will see you next week. Bye bye.